The WSL returned with a bang. In this video, we analyse the thrilling opening weekend of the Women's Super League 24-25 season and determine what takeaways we have from the opening fixtures. We look at who the current favourites are for the title, why Brighton are the team to watch this season, and whether Arsenal's equaliser should have been disallowed. This is our Match Week 1 WSL review. Alright, let's get into our first game then of the weekend. Chelsea versus Aston Villa, the season opener. Quite a nice way to start the season. The champions, of course, starting the season as is customary. A good match.
Yeah, very much so. I really enjoyed it. I think overall it was actually very competitive.
Much more competitive than I think a lot of people thought it would be.
Exactly, and I think it was a very intriguing game. We knew it was going to be interesting because you had two sides going into it with new managers, the start of a new era at both football clubs. And I think first of all you have to address Aston Villa. They were brilliant, and you have to give them credit because they took the game to Chelsea. Last year, they lost 7-0 to the Blues. This season, they only lost 1-0 through a very well-taken goal from Johanna writing Kaneryd. So, fair play to Villa. They played brilliantly. They pushed Chelsea at times. They put Chelsea under pressure at certain points in the game. So, very much hats off to Villa. Chelsea, we knew there were going to be a few teething issues. There always was going to be. You've had the same manager for 12 years. When the new one comes in, it's not going to start flying immediately.
Yeah.
And there are still a few problems to sort out for Sonia Bonpastor. But the main thing was, as we said on the stream on Friday night, is that they got the 3 points. And that's what champions do. That's what Chelsea do. That's what winners do, is they win the games even when they are up against it at times.
Yeah, very true. I thought that the game ebbed and flowed quite interestingly. I thought Chelsea dominated the early part of the game, first 10 minutes. There was some nerves, but they looked the more assured team. Most of the first half, I thought Chelsea was the better side, but there were a lot of issues for Chelsea as well. I think Aston Villa did challenge them a lot. I thought Lucy Bronze was particularly poor. You know, her positioning for a lot of the game was quite poor. I thought she got dragged out a lot by Kenza Darley in the first half. That changed a bit in the second half. And I think Chelsea went a bit too defensive in the second half, actually. But yeah, because Darley's playing on the left wing and then inverting, she dragged Bronze inside with her and left all that space out in the wide area for Paula Thomas, who was actually one of the most interesting players to watch this weekend. Left her loads of space to attack into. And we saw Thomas come into the game and instantly look very comfortable at this level.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, looks like a really good signing. But I thought Villa did really well. They're doing a lot of interesting tactical things. That Darley inverting with Thomas overlapping is interesting. I think against a team that are less good at stopping and preventing goals from crosses, I think that they would probably have scored a few goals. I thought that, Rachel Daly's movement was a little bit lacking. Perhaps if she was a bit more active in the box, giving Bright a bit more to think about, maybe she'd have scored. But equally, Bright is a very experienced defender. So you can sort of see why that'd be difficult for Daly to deal with. But yeah, I thought they were good. I thought Chastity Grant showed a lot of promising glimpses, and actually I was impressed by Ashley Lawrence's performance because I thought she dealt with her quite well, a lot better than I expected. But yeah, Villa doing lots of interesting things tactically, lots of promise there. Chelsea, it wasn't comfortable, but it's a win, and I think there's stuff to build on. There's a lot to learn from, but there are some solid foundations there. Will be interesting to see. In terms of Chelsea's personnel, I don't think Brighton, as we're learning once again, can play attacking midfield. It seems to be this experiment we try every few months. Never works. Or once a season, we try it out, never works. Wright's not an attacking midfielder. I thought Baltimore struggled with the pace of the game. I think we saw a few times where she was, because her dribbling is very stop-start, which can work very effectively. It just didn't really work in this game because she tries to stop the ball dead and then create the difficulty for the fullback by being unpredictable, by bursting away and accelerating. We didn't really see that acceleration.
No.
And so she would try and catch the fullback out with a quick bit of movement, but she wasn't then bursting away. So she didn't take advantage of that. So that was a little bit frustrating, and a lot of Chelsea's positive play came down the right-hand side. But yeah, still some positive stuff for Chelsea to see. And Villa, for the second half, they were the much better side. I thought that they really troubled Chelsea and probably should have scored a goal, if we're being honest. So Chelsea will count their blessings, but ultimately, they prove their mettle. They can win games even when they're not the better side. And I think that once they get up to speed, this Chelsea side, with what Bonpastor is demanding of them, I think they'll be super competitive this season. They've got Crystal Palace coming up next. I think that's a really nice game for them to get their teeth into, to score a few goals. to get Lauren Jameson scoring a hat-trick. I mean, she played about 10 minutes and still looked quite good in those 10 minutes. But I want to see her starting against Palace. As for Aston Villa, they play Tottenham next, which is a tough game, but I think it's a game that they will fancy themselves in. Yeah. Tottenham were very good today against Crystal Palace, as we'll get onto later, but I think Villa will see that as a game they could give Tottenham a game in.
Yeah, I think the word promise and potential works for both sides. I think you look at the Chelsea side and you can see that there is definitely more to come from Chelsea, and we know that Chelsea will deliver at some point this season with Bon Pastor. Once that side is performing to the highest quality, they could be unstoppable. So that'll be interesting to see. And for Aston Villa, I think every player you can look at and go played very well. Most players you go played extremely well, and there's a lot of promise there. Right? Grant, Bo Kearns, Thomas, Darley, we know was already good, but this Villa side has got a lot of potential to do something really good this season, and I really hope they can build on how they played on Friday night, because they were defensively solid, which was a very rare occurrence from last season, and they looked pretty dangerous in attack if they can just start to find the back of the net.
Yeah, indeed. Let's move on to the second game of the weekend then. Saturday morning rolled around and we had Manchester United's opening game at an Old Trafford that was lacking in attendance, unfortunately so. They didn't really... It's a bit of a weird one because they didn't really make the effort to sell the tickets and then were surprised when they only sold 8,000 tickets. But the media department for the women's side is not very good, and I think that's a huge source. There's a huge disappointment that has such a lack of investment. But let's talk about the actual game then, because United, very good on the field, surprisingly good. I will caveat it by saying that I don't think West Ham are very good. You look at the goal for Seike, for example, the defending was really poor, and I thought Kinga Shemik looked okay, but clearly not entirely comfortable yet with the WSL. But that's okay, and with that team, she will adapt to that. I just think West Ham look really poor.
Yeah.
But Man United, kudos to them. Very good.
Yeah, exactly. I think, to be honest, this game was one of the only games on the weekend that actually lived up to its kind of expectation, in terms of we all knew that we knew United would kind of and play well. We knew West Ham would be on the back foot, and that's exactly how it played out. West Ham never really turned up in the game. United had control of the whole match. They played very, very well. They looked pretty dangerous in attacking areas. They did look solid defensively, but again, I don't think that was any massive surprise because West Ham didn't really test them. So, credit to United, a big win to start the season. There's definitely, I think I'll be intrigued to see how they do against the bigger sides in the league, but they look really comfortable against the weaker sides. For West Ham, I think there's a lot of worry there. There's a lot of concern as to what's going to happen, because they didn't even put up a fight, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's one of the only games of the weekend we didn't learn anything from. I think we already knew that West Ham weren't going to be very good this season, and we have no idea where Manchester United are right now, because, yes, Seike scored, which is already matching a tally from last season, positive stuff. Yes, Clinton scored, and they had an all-round good performance, but we don't know where they lie. They have West Ham. They've got Everton next week as well. So I don't think we're going to get a full gauge on how good Manchester United are until they play Chelsea at Kings Meadow, which is the ultimate trial by fire. And I think it's going to be interesting, that game. I mean, Everton they shouldn't have any issues with. If they do, then we learn something. We learned that United maybe aren't that good, but they look good in this game. The midfield didn't look too unbalanced, which I was a bit surprised by, because I thought Narsund and Clinton would be an interesting midfield, but they did look okay against top quality opposition. I would be surprised if that is so effective, because I think against midfields that are stronger, that are able to break you down more easily, I think that's the type of midfield that would get pulled apart a bit. But overall, it was a decent performance. I thought they looked quite good. As for West Ham, nothing really worked. They couldn't progress the ball forwards. Katrina Gorey was class as always, but she always is. Yeah. So that's no surprise there. They just couldn't really progress the ball. They didn't really get into attacking areas. They only had, one shot on target in 90 minutes.
Wow.
7 shots, which isn't terrible, but 1 shot on target in 90 minutes. That was a big chance which they missed, of course. 14 shots as well for Manchester United, 5 on target. So United very good at attacking areas, very clinical actually, because they had 5 shots on target. They scored 3 goals. That's quite good. 4 big chances. They still missed 2 because they are Man United at the end of the day. We can't forget that. But overall, it's positive signs for Manchester United, even if I would exercise some caution with judging Manchester United right now. I don't think West Ham very good. Exactly. Therefore, I don't really know where Manchester United sit. They do look okay. And watching Liverpool, I think that will be tight between those two. Maybe Leicester as well, because they look very good today. maybe so. But I think Manchester United in total, okay performance, but I'll reserve judgment until they play someone of higher quality.
Exactly that. It's a lovely way to start the season, but I'll be intrigued to see how their season goes.
And I think that we can follow a same sort of route to analyse the next game. Brighton 4, Everton 0. We learnt a lot more from this one. We learnt that Brighton are very good. Obviously, Everton, again, same thing with West Ham. I don't think they're very good. We saw Everton in this match. They just couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
Getting steamrolled by Brighton every time they came forward. Brighton looked like scoring. So that'll be a real cause of concern for Brian Sorensen. This is the type of game last season where they may have been able to offer a chance.
Exactly.
They may have been able to remain really tight, really compact, and prevent the opposition from scoring. And they just had no hope of doing that. 14 shots of Brighton, 8 of which were on target. They just peppered Brosnan in the Everton goal. And, she's one of the players I feel sorry for because she just didn't have a chance in that goal.
No.
Brighton were all over them all game. Admittedly, some of the goals were absolute screamers from Kiko Seike. Let's talk Kiko Seike then. Coming into WSL and bagging a hat-trick on debut. Believe she's the only player to do that. Absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. And she's one of the players that made the difference. As you say, this game last season would have been quite competitive. It was much, much closer in terms of the result. But you're not. Brighton have recruited really well. They've brought in players like Kiko Seike who can perform to the highest degree. And obviously you can say the same thing in terms of West Ham and Everton. Difference is, for Everton, Brighton is a team that they could be taking points off. West Ham would never really take points off Man United. Everton could take points off Brighton, but we were proved wrong this weekend. I mean, hats off to Brighton. They look like a real force. I'm intrigued to see if they can back it up. Similar questions to United. Brighton were brilliant. Can they back it up in the next few weeks? But what a game. What a player Kiko Seike is going to be in the WSL. We thought they needed to replace Turland's goals, and they might have just done that with a very, very good striker.
Yeah, indeed. I think they put together quite a nice attack. It was interesting to see Kirby in a deeper role, but because we thought they'd play a 4-2-3-1, but 3-4-3, it worked really nicely. They've got enough centre halves to cover those sort of positions. I thought Patterson and Olis Lagers in the wide areas are very good. I thought the Lasada pivot and Kirby pivot was really nice. Lasada offered a lot of defensive contributions, while Kirby was great attacking and obviously creating chances for Via Maya, for Brema and for Kiko Seike. But yeah, Seike looks a top player. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how they look going forwards. But yeah, they played really well. Brighton and Vidicic, I think they're a team to look out for when you consider last season they lost 2-1 to Everton at home. This season they're winning 4-0. It's certainly a sign of progress for Brighton, but also Everton falling off a little bit. I think there are some real concerns at Everton this season. This is the type of game where they would have wanted to get something, and they just didn't. They didn't look even remotely like getting something. 4-5-1, they sat really deep, and they just couldn't soak up that pressure. Though Kiko Seike, loads of brilliant goals, and a Kirby penalty as well. So
exactly.
Perfect sort of Saturday for Brighton. Up next for Brighton is Manchester City. Admittedly, a very difficult game. But if there's any game to really prove that you are as good as you look in Matchweek 1, it's against Man City, a team they beat. Let's not forget, last season Manchester City lost to Brighton. So I think there is still a chance for an upset there. I mean, obviously the favours with Manchester City in that tie, but I think Brighton will give it a good go.
Yeah, and it's the same sentiment we gave to Villa playing Chelsea on Friday night, in terms of no one's expecting you to go out and beat a side like Chelsea or Man City. But if Brighton can go there and play well, only lose 1 or 2-0, can give it, no matter what the result is, obviously, just keep the result low, give it a very, very good game, be competitive, and if you can get a point or 3, absolutely brilliant. But if you can just go to Man City and take the game to them, then I think that proves enough even if you lose the game.
Yeah, definitely so. And let's move on then to the big one. The big game, the 12:30 kickoff. Wow. We're, of course, live for it, so if you want to see all our live reactions, they're already on the channel, so you can see us shouting and screaming about what a game it was. Incredible. Absolutely incredible game of football. I thought going into it, I knew going into it would be a good match. I did have some reservations that we saw how Arsenal played against Herken. Maybe City would just come in and steamroll them. If anything, a lot of the game was the opposite. I thought City were very fortunate to get a point from the match. I thought Arsenal were absolutely superb. I mean, obviously, the early stages, Arsenal looked a little bit nervous in possession. We saw them almost get the ball away to Fagino, almost get the ball away to Hemp, and they did look like they might concede in those early stages. But then 8 minutes, they worked the ball really nicely down the right-hand side. Caitlin Ford flashes the ball into the penalty area. Stina Blackstenius touches it on, and Frida Maanum just smashing it home. It was great from Arsenal. It showed that they've got an ability to break teams down just so easily. They moved it. It seems so simple. They just moved out to Fox down the line to Ford into the box, go. And that's how they've got to play against teams like that. They don't need to play this slow, intricate passing game. They can just smash and grab a bit.
Yeah.
So that was a really well taken goal. I thought they dominated the first half. They really should have scored some more chances. I mean, Arsenal 6 big chances in the game, 4 missed. That is criminal. Yeah. And we will get on to some of the other ones as we progress through the game. But 6 big chances, 4 missed. Absolutely criminal. When you want to compete at the top and you want to compete for the WSL title, that's just not... That can't happen.
Yeah.
And a lot of people on social media directing their anger at Jonas Eidevall. Personally, I don't see any merit to that, because I thought Arsenal were tactically superb against Manchester City, but individuals let them down.
Yeah.
A lot of players missed big opportunities. Stina Blackstenius ran through on goal in the first half. That should have been a goal.
Yeah.
And she missed it. There was another one. There was 2 where Stina Blackstenius ran through. There's one that was safe, and there was the one that she tried to run the goalkeeper for and made a hash of it. Those both should have been goals. And then we're looking at a completely different game. The Russo opportunity, we'll talk about it now, in fact. I mean, just come off the bench, gets an opportunity in behind. You can already see, because she's been dropped, that maybe she's not in favour right now.
Yeah.
And understandably so, because I thought she was really quiet against Herken, and they needed someone who was going to run in behind, and Blackstenius is much better than Russo is. Russo likes to receive the ball into feet, likes to bring others into the game. We didn't really see that from her against Herken, so they went, we're going to go in behind, so let's play Blackstenius. Yeah. They bring Russo on, and she didn't really do anything for a bit, and then she gets that opportunity. They play the ball in behind. She's one-on-one with Yamashita. It's a really poor shot from Russo. Really poor shot from Russo. And I think that's where that frustration comes out for Arsenal fans, because that should have been in. And at that point, when they were 2-1 down, they really needed that goal.
Yeah, and I think that is the frustration for Arsenal, is that it's a point in the title. It's a point against title rivals, but it's a backward step from last season. They beat, they know they can beat Man City, and I think, to be honest, that you look back to the game they did beat Man City in last season, they shouldn't have won that game, realistically. Today, at the Emirates, for me, it was a must. Before the game, a draw would have been decent, but when you watch the game, when you see how they played, it was a must win. They had to win that game, and I'm still surprised they didn't. I think it was an incredible game from a neutral point of view, but for Arsenal, they should have taken 3 points. They really should, and I worry. I know it's early days, but they could regret that later down the line this season. If they lose out on the title by 1 or 2 points, it could be a costly drop of points. There's a long way to go, but I felt like that it was such a crucial result today that if they could have got the win, it would have been huge, and they should have got the win.
Yeah, we're jumping around a bit weirdly here, but let's talk about City's goals then. Obviously, the opportunity for Vivian Miedemar, what a weird goal. We saw, obviously, Miedemar beat one player, beat two, just sort of barreling her way through players, nutmeg Lotte Moy, took a shot and took a huge deflection into the back of the net. It was a very frustrating one, I think, for Arsenal fans, because that shouldn't have gone in, realistically. That someone had to stop Miedemar with those 3 times that she just sort of barreled through someone. Yeah. I think that was really frustrating for Arsenal fans. They really should have gone to the break 1-0 up, and that could have been a very different game from there.
Yeah, I think that's the crucial thing. I think it's fair to say that since the Arsenal goal in the 8th minute, City weren't in the game. And to be honest,
City still weren't in the game for much.
Exactly.
Though.
But that's the thing, they didn't merit to be 1-1 at the break. They really didn't. But Arsenal, you had minutes until half time. You've just got to survive. You just don't let them score. It was against the run of play, and to be honest, I feel like that goal there set the tone for the game. If Arsenal go into the break 1-0 up, I feel like the game has a different outcome. But that goal there really set the tone for the second half.
Well, I disagree with that side, because I don't think anything changed in the second half. I thought Arsenal was still the better team in the second half. We saw them dominate the early parts of the second half. Then, obviously, that Jess Park goal came out of absolutely nowhere.
I mean, wow.
It was headed away to her on the edge of the box. The first touch wasn't great, and I thought, well, Mana's just going to get here and prevent that attack, prevent that shot. And she just smashes it in off the crossbar. It was an absolutely ridiculous effort. I couldn't believe it on stream. I mean, you just started screaming or something.
Yeah,
that was it, to be fair. It was absolutely phenomenal. Thunderous effort, in off the bar, bouncing up and down. once it hit the bar, I mean, absolutely stupendous from Jess Park. And I think it's really starting to show her quality. And we had this conversation a bit on stream about the England squad, and a Serena argument came up on screen, and we were like, well, is Jess Park going to be in the England squad? I think she's definitely starting to merit being in that conversation. And you consider that, Women's Euros are coming up next summer in Switzerland, and you've got that attack midfield role where you expect that Lauren James is probably starting there, but she can play on the left.
Yeah.
You've got Clinton, who's an option there, but she can play deeper in midfield. So it's sort of between Toon and Park there to be another option in attack midfield. And I think right now you would be hard pressed to argue that Ella Toon would deserve to go over Jess Park, because Park can play out on the wing. I think Park offers you more than Toon does right now.
Yeah, maybe. So
and that goal was fantastic.
Yeah, the goal was brilliant, and that's the thing. City's quality showed in terms of I know they've got the Miedemar goal was scrappy, but in terms of the actual work to get to the effort, City's quality really saved them today. Like
individual quality. I thought they were actually really poor.
They're quality in players.
Didn't create a big chance
No.
all game, which is absolutely shocking. Like, they did not create a chance. And that was the big thing for me, is yes, they got away with it today, but they can't rely on individual quality in every match.
No.
Surely not. And that, because eventually that will catch up with you and you will lose to a team you shouldn't have. Yeah. So they've got to try and work that out. I thought they were really poor today. They completed 500 passes in the match. Well done them. But they had, I think, about 60% of them were in their own half. And they weren't sitting deep. They were playing just on the halfway line. Alex Green made 100 passes in the game by herself, just to the other centre-halves. They did nothing going forwards. They couldn't create opportunities. Arsenal set up absolutely superbly. Yeah. Defensively, they were great. They were narrow, they were compact, and they stayed in that low block, really regimented at times, and then they'd spring forwards into attacking areas, and they looked really good going forwards. They, 4-4-2 out of possession shape, quite common, and they were able to stay really narrow, really compact, and I don't think City were very good.
No.
I don't think City were very good at all. And I stand by what I said on the predictions. A lot of people have said after the Champions League games, these are mental now, do you want to change them and stuff like that? But I stand by it because, yes, City looked very good against Paris FC, who were defensively woeful, but against top teams, I don't think City look very good right now. I don't think they've got the players to unpick defences. You look at the title running last season, and a big part of why they lost to Arsenal was because they didn't have Khadija Shaw, but more importantly, they didn't have Jill Roord. Yeah. And I think we're seeing this season already that they sorely lack Jill Roord. They got those 2 goals and, relied on individual quality for them. I thought after the Park goal, actually, City started to look a bit better.
Yeah.
But obviously then Arsenal, needing a goal, kept going forwards. On came the subs. Russo missed that chance. Various other chances were missed. Then obviously came the chance for Mead. Wonderfully worked down the left-hand side. Ball through to Rosa Kafaji. Brilliant stuff from Kafaji, because that's a really tough angle to actually do anything with. She takes the shot. For me, Yamashita's got to do better, because you've just got to save that. Instead, she doesn't quite get there. It hits off the inside of the post, falls to Beth Mead, and she puts it home. Now, the more interesting question, because obviously good goal by Mead, good for Arsenal. The more interesting question, though, comes around the foul, of course, committed by Katie McCabe. Now, I think anyone who has ever watched football before can say she didn't win the ball. And so, therefore, technically the goal shouldn't have counted. However, I would argue that the Caitlin Ford goal, as soon as we start in the second half, should have stood, because that looked onside to me. I haven't seen any pictures of it afterwards, but from the replays we saw, she looked onside in that. So, yeah, I think that should have stood. So that sort of evens itself out there. And when you consider that, the fact they bounced themselves out means that the result isn't really impacted them. And when you consider that they are sort of naked eye, split-second decisions, I can see where that would be very difficult to judge. I thought the McCabe one, when I saw it in real time, wasn't a foul. But then as soon as you see that replay, you see she misses the ball. It's a difficult one to call. But for me, there was so much time as well after that foul that if City fans are using that as an excuse, that's absolutely bizarre, because they've got to deal with the ball through to Kafaji, and then they've got Yamashita's got to save it, and then they've got to deal with Mead in the box. And they don't deal with any of those 3 things. So... yeah, for me, I don't think you can use that as a solid complaint. Then came added time, and it seemed to go on forever.
Yeah.
And then Arsenal were coming forwards, and the referee blew a whistle, and Eidevall was furious. He was pointing down at his watch, claiming that there was still time. I don't know why he thinks he keeps the time now. The officials always keep the time, and as per the rules, the referee can blow a whistle whenever she wants after the allotted added time. So. and it is a vague ruling, but it's not, Arsenal on the attack, I'll let them see out this attack. A lot of refs do that, but it's not.
But for me, I don't think Arsenal were really on the attack. They weren't in they weren't in the final third. They were, for me, they were more central than they were more attacking. And yeah, I think it's, there's just it's vague, but there's a kind of general consensus that Little, for me, when Little had the ball, she wasn't in a position where she plays a pass or has a shot that could lead her to a goal. And that's the thing for me, is that's why it's fine that the referee blew her whistle, because Little wasn't, from where Little was, she wasn't in the position to do anything that was going to lead to Arsenal having an opportunity. Yeah. So I have no problems with that. I think, Arsenal, as you say, I think overall the decisions across the game even themselves out, and a draw was a fair result.
Yeah, and no idea how McCabe didn't get booked for that one though, because she gets away with it. But to be fair to Katie McCabe, good performance.
And this is my thing. I think the big takeaway from Arsenal is 3 players that had tough seasons last year: Ford, Mead, and McCabe. All played very well today. Mead came off the bench and scored. Caitlin Ford brought her pre-season form into the new season, and she looked good. And Katie McCabe was my player of the match. She was absolutely phenomenal. So for Arsenal, some parts of today were steps in the right direction. Some were steps in the wrong direction. Overall, they haven't really moved anywhere.
Yeah, I thought Kaneryd, though, looks very good.
Yes, of course.
Surprisingly, shocking revelation, Mariana Kaneryd, quite good at football. And let's talk then, let's move on to we've got 2 more games to get through, and we've already been talking a lot about City Arsenal, so let's get through these then. Liverpool versus Leicester, the 1-1 draw. I thought this was quite an interesting game from a neutral perspective. I thought, and I know I've seen a lot of Liverpool fans reacting by saying, we probably should have won this game, we are the stronger team. But I'd argue that Leicester are very strong now, and while Liverpool were probably the better attacking team, and Leicester's goal did, require a bit of fortune with getting it to Rantala. Great strike when she did pick up the ball. It was a great ball across the pitch from Mamiki. Yeah. Taylor Hines has to deal with that. She doesn't, just flicks it on to Rantala instead, who then just carries it forwards and strikes it across goal. I mean, if anyone was doubting the quality of Tristan Rantala, if anyone's claiming she's a one-season wonder, she isn't.
Yeah, and I think that's the interesting thing, is that for me today, all it really, we know Liverpool played well, Liverpool are a decent side, we know that. What it proved for me is that Leicester now have the quality in personnel and manager to challenge bigger sides. That was the difference to me. Yes, they didn't play particularly well, yet I think Liverpool played better, but Leicester's on-pitch quality is now good enough that they can get points against teams like Liverpool. So for me, I don't think Liverpool did too much particularly wrong. I think it was great to see Haug score, and hopefully that will be a kickstart a really good season for her, because she did struggle last campaign.
Yeah.
But for Leicester, I think if anything, it's a good sign for Leicester. For Liverpool, I wouldn't dwell on it too much.
I do have some doubts for Liverpool. I thought they looked less strong defensively than they did last season. And against tougher opposition, I think that will be punished like it was last season. They got tanked by City last year. So there were elements of that last season, but I think that will be more profound this season without Koi Visto. I did think Parry looked good, though. To be fair, going forwards, Parry looked really good. I still think they're a bit blunt in attack. And I know people rate Romain Haugen. She scored the goal, but that was from a corner. That was from a set piece, a dead ball situation. From open play, they didn't seem to link up well in attacking areas. I still have some doubts there. Olivia Smith, I thought she had a fine debut. I don't think it was anything to write home about necessarily, but she looked okay. There was some nice play, some nice tidy combinations. So some interesting stuff there. Overall, I don't think she set the world alight though. But she's young and she will develop and grow in that role. But yeah, their midfield 3 still class. I mean, we know that Cherry Holland forced a great save out of the Leicester goalkeeper, Lisa Kopp, at one point. So their midfield is still really good, and we know the class of Hobinger and Nagano. So that's no surprise. But yeah, some real positives for both sides. And on Leicester, they looked really strong defensively, which is something we didn't really see last season. And I think once it starts to click more in attacking areas, that's going to be really strong. Yeah. I thought Mamiki looked really good. That pass out to Rantala was quality. Rantala, shock, is brilliant. Mouchon didn't really get involved in the game, to be fair. She played 70 minutes, but she didn't really get involved in the match. So yeah, we'll hope to see more from her soon. But yeah, decent game, I thought.
Yeah,
I think they'll be near each other in the table this season.
Yeah,
I'm optimistic
exactly.
Leicester will be very good, and I think Liverpool have taken a bit of a not a nosedive from last season, but a bit of a drop off.
Yeah, I'll be intrigued to see how their season develops from here, because they'd have wanted to win today, especially the fact they went 1-0 up. But I think a point is not a terrible result.
Yeah, fair enough. And then the final game of the weekend, Tottenham 4, Crystal Palace 0. This was comprehensive, and I don't think this is a damning indictment on Palace. I thought they were sloppy at the back, and that will be a concern.
Yes.
But overall, I don't think Palace were terrible. I thought Tottenham were very, very good, very clinical. They capitalised on all of Palace's defensive errors. But yeah, I think there's a lot of defensive effort for Palace. They can't afford to give away that many opportunities, but they did face a very good Tottenham side in very good form.
Yeah, and I think what it also shows is that the step up was noted in terms of the fact that Palace conceded most of their goals later in the game. They did well first half, only one down. I think that shows a lot that towards the end they were tiring, but that's because it's the WSL. That's because they're playing at a high level against better players. Tottenham are going to move the ball quicker than anyone in the Championship. Tottenham are going to, runs in behind. Everything is just quicker. And I think it showed towards the end of the game that Palace did just start to tire, and then errors crept in, and then they conceded more goals. I think 4-0 makes the game look a lot worse than it did. Obviously, the red card doesn't help either. But overall, I think 4-0 does... I wouldn't say it flatters Tottenham. I think Tottenham deserves to win 4-0, but I don't think it... I think it looks harsh on Palace to lose by 4.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I thought there were a few opportunities they just sort of gave to the opposition, and that will frustrate Palace. But overall, some good stuff. As for Tottenham, I really like their midfield now. They've got depth and quality in their depth there. I thought Oroz, Summonen and Spence started really well. Olga Artinen came in and looked really good as well for getting that goal. So, yeah, they look really good in that regard. In wide areas, Naz and Raso. Naz looked really on it, really sharp, and that's good to see. Hayley Raso has taken back to WSL like a duck to water. Again, that's not a huge surprise. And as someone who had her in their fantasy team, that's exactly what I want to see. So, good stuff from Raso. I thought Marta Thomas was a little bit quiet and a bit wasteful in front of goal, but they brought Beth England on and she looked quality. I was a little bit surprised to see Marta Thomas start over Beth England, but we'll see how that looks going forwards. Defensively, they looked more solid than they did in pretty much any game last season, bar probably the Arsenal match. So, really positive stuff for Tottenham. Again, I want to see them tested against tougher opposition. They've got Aston Villa next, and I think that will be a good game. That will be a good game. So that'll be interesting to see what happens there. As for Crystal Palace, it gets harder. If Tottenham away wasn't already a tough enough match, they welcome Chelsea to their stadium next week. So that's going to be a really difficult game for them on Friday. Get through those two and then pick up the pieces from there. Because after that, they play Leicester, Brighton in the league. They need to start picking up points eventually. But Palace, tough start to the season.
I think that the Chelsea at home game will be more of in terms of it's about the occasion. It's at Selhurst Park. It'll be a brilliant occasion for Palace to welcome Chelsea as the champions.
Are they playing that at Selhurst Park?
I think they're playing at Selhurst Park. But
that'll be good.
Either way, it'll be an experience of Palace. Sometimes that's WSL life. Sometimes the best way to learn is to be thrown right in the deep end and then learn to swim eventually, or you don't and you will drown and get relegated. That's the equivalent.
What a morbid analogy. Anyway, that is our roundup for match week 1 of the WSL season. I will say, on an overall sort of thing, looking at the table then, I think most of my predictions from the pre-season predictions are coming quite true. Maybe Brighton looked better than I thought they did, but again, they played Everton, so you can sort of mitigate that. Tottenham good, United good, Chelsea good. I said Arsenal and City would be close this season. They can't get closer than a draw.
Yeah.
Leicester looks strong, like they will be up there with Liverpool. And then Aston Villa lost to Chelsea, but again, it's Chelsea. And West Ham, Palace, Everton, I think are all in trouble.
Yeah, exactly that. For me, I think this weekend was a brilliant advert for WSL. The games were superb.
Oh, yeah, it's really exciting matches. Yeah. And I think next weekend, we've got some interesting matchups. I think Crystal Palace Chelsea will be really interesting to see. If Palace can offer Chelsea a scrap. Obviously, we've got Manchester City Brighton as well. We're live for both of those games next weekend. Harry will be joining me for Chelsea Palace, and it's just me on City Brighton. So do join us for both of those. Will be very interesting to see how it all pans out.
Yes.
And then we've got, no huge game next weekend, but lots of interesting matchups. And then after that, the big games start rolling again because we've got Chelsea, Manchester United, and then Arsenal, Chelsea, and Man United, Tottenham.
Come on.
So some
what a
big
weekend.
weeks. And then the week after that, it is Chelsea, Tottenham. So, and City, Everton. No, sorry, City, Villa. Going to be interesting.
That'll be good.
Lots of interesting games coming up in the WSL. Then stay tuned for all of that. That is everything from us today. We will have another video out on Wednesday, probably talking about something from this weekend or some other big topic in the women's game. Then on Thursday, we're live for Arsenal versus BK Häcken as Arsenal try and qualify for the Champions League.
Yeah.
We're not streaming City Paris FC for obvious reasons.
What's the point?
City are through. Arsenal Häcken will be interesting. Arsenal have to overturn that win. We're back on Friday with WSL content. We'll be live with Chelsea versus Crystal Palace, so that should be good. And live Sunday as well. So join us for all of that. But that is everything from us today. Thank you guys very, very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.